When you think about health equity, it's easy to dismiss individuals who you see sick or overweight or things of that nature because you think, well, they should have exercised. Well, vitamin D, they should have gone outside. Well, they lost a leg due to diabetes. Well, they should have taken better care of their bodies, right? But what if we were to stop judging and start asking questions? For example, when you think of equity versus equality, you need to think of equality as fair and equal, and then equity as fair and unequal, but not unequal in the way that we all seem to think. Unequal in the way in that you might have an individual who needs help with access to care, right? So you think fair and equal is everybody gets $1,200, right? So now when you go to the doctor and somebody's anemic or doesn't have enough vitamin D and they have $1,200, you give them their medicine and they go about their business. Fair and unequal is equity, where everybody gets $1,200. A person goes in and they find out they have cancer, but they only have $1,200. So do you just say, oh, we're keeping everything fair and equal? Or do you say, all right, we need to give this person a little more money so that they can get the chemo and the treatment they need? But as long as the other person isn't getting the same amount of money, but all they needed was a supplement or their annual visit, they're fair. They gave you what was needed. And that's what we need to look at when we look at health equity. A great example of that would be, and how it can affect people is, I have a grandmother. I had four grandparents, right? We all have four. Or some of us, if we had mixed families, it could be more. But anyway, I had four grandparents. Two grandfathers were in World War. Two grandmothers worked their tails off just doing whatever needed to be done back at home. My paternal grandparents, my grandfather came back with Agent Orange, but back then there was no such thing, things of that nature. And so he died on the living room floor in front of four of his kids, because one was in Vietnam at the time, and nobody helped him when he was sick to get better. Then you have fast forward now, and you see that there's a lawsuit through Harvard, a group from Harvard University, that is suing the government and the VA system because veterans of World War I, World War II, Vietnam, who were of color, were denied the same opportunities when it came to VA coverage than those of their counterparts or white people. So for instance, my grandfather with Agent Orange, when he was discouraged to do disability, but there were some who did it and they were denied. And when they reviewed records, they noticed that white males were getting better acceptance for disability ratings than black males, Hispanic males, Native American males. Why does that matter? It all goes down to legacy, quality of life, and quantity of years you get to live. Why is that? As a veteran who's 100% covered, any medical issue I have, I can go straight to the VA and they cover everything. And if they can't see me, they provide me with a doctor and they cover everything. But someone who's denied their claim has to figure out how to get the money to see a regular doctor, and that's if they have insurance. So now where I might have a cold, I can go to the doctor, I can get that fixed because I have insurance, because the VA covers me. If an individual has a cold and the VA denied their claims like they did for these older veterans, then your cold can turn into pneumonia because it's not like they can stop working. They can't just go to an appointment. They can't just take off work depending on the kind of jobs they have. That cold turns into pneumonia. That pneumonia turns into walking pneumonia. And it can either go either way, right? Now you're hospitalized and now you got bigger bills, or you die. And that stuff can be avoided by having the equality. But what about those people who don't have access to the VA where that equality comes in. That's where equity comes in. So you might live in an area, in a suburban area where most doctors tend to be because they're going to go where the money is. They could just get in a car and they could just go to their appointment. But what about somebody who lives somewhere where they can't just get in a car because they don't have access to a car? Public transportation doesn't bring you to a certain type of area. Why not make it for insurance where you can get an Uber and get to these appointments so you can get better? And we can all say that's not possible, but when they wanted us to get the COVID shot, we made it happen. So, equity and equality, both are important, both have their place. But understanding that sometimes in equity, you're going to have to provide a little more for others so that they can just get to even be competitive or equivalent in quality of health. And we need to stop and look at these things instead of assuming everybody should just be able to get the same thing. Or I should get what I get because I went to college and I got the good job and I did. But what about the kid who couldn't go to college because they were a caregiver for their parent and they couldn't leave? Do they not deserve the same quality? Or the individuals who the mother did decide to stay home and raise the family and the husband was the provider, and most times when that happens, you're not working and then the husband dies. Now what does she do? Does she not deserve the same health care for her and her family because she decided to give of herself, put away the job, right? Because that's what they're pushing now. Like, women need to do a better job of staying home and take care of their kids. But what's the benefit in those things? Whereas when I was over in Europe, the women would get some kind of stipend for up to a certain amount of time. That's equity. So men could be like, well, why don't we get the money? You can work and you can progress while we're being limited because now we're getting pregnant and then we're having to take time off. So being able to say, okay, you're not going to work and you're going to stay home, take care of the baby, which has long-term effects for this nation and legacy and prosperity and economic advancement, and has been shown to decrease crime, has been seen to improve mental health, school scores, the actual physical health of a child. So what if, okay, fine, men, you work and we appreciate you, and the women who stay home, here's a stipend to help fill gaps. And that's where equity comes in.